almost headbutt a bird. Hello and welcome to another motovlog, albeit late, but another motovlog all the same. And I'm going to start off quickly, right to the point, owning an RSV4 long term. I do have about 20,000, actually let me see, I've had this since new, okay, I got 19,849 miles as of recording on this, and I've owned this bike since new, and I think after almost 20,000 miles, I can give you a lowdown on the long-term longevity of an RSV4 and how it handles and how the surface is, and just the cost of ownership. I'm sure I can give you guys a good breakdown on that. So let's begin. First, I rode it the first year with the stock exhaust, so let me give you a quick breakdown on the stock exhaust of the 2012 model year. It does have a throatiness to it. It is kind of loud, I guess. So, being a stock exhaust, you might not want to change it. There are some difficulties in changing an exhaust on an RSV4. And the first thing is, the moment you change an exhaust, you get a lean spike at 7,000 RPM. The exhaust is designed in a certain way that it doesn't have this lean spike, but when you put a free-flowing exhaust on it, like any slip-on of any sort, you're going to get a lean spike at 7,000, which is the injector switchover point. This causes a weird spot around there. It doesn't quite feel right, and you get a lot more backfires. It is not good for your engine. It will eventually damage it. So just putting a slip-on without any other modification, I do not recommend. But getting the race ECU upgrade is good enough to get rid of the lean spike, which I have on this. All in all, it's not so bad. I know people like to rag on Italian bikes. They rag on Italian bikes for how much their service is and how much they break down. Like, reliability seems to be a thing that people are concerned with buying an Italian exotic. In the case of the RSV4, it's not so bad. We're going through Belgrade now. Welcome to Touristville. There's really not much wrong. After 20,000 miles, I can list everything that's gone wrong on one hand. And as bikes go, it's pretty average. Some of it is just because of my mods that I've done. And let me break down what happened to this bike over my course of ownership. Within the first 2 years, I had a coolant leak, and great, my brand new bike has a coolant leak. I checked with Aprilia, and they said, yeah, there's a recall on the coolant tube. There's a plastic coolant tube that ends up leaking, and they had a recall on it. The aftermarket makes an aluminum one, and Aprilia has an updated plastic one, and they put on the updated plastic one free of charge. Cost me nothing. They gave me my bike back, and it was fine. Never had a coolant leak ever again. So that is the first thing that's happened to this bike. Second, it developed a tick. When it's hot, on a hot start, it developed a tick, and that is normal. According to Aprilia, it does not cause a problem, and what it really is there's like a nylon wear bushing on the timing chain tensioner, so the nylon wear bushing kind of wears out a little bit, and Aprilia does not recommend replacing it, but they do have a kit that gets rid of the sound. My phone feels like it's going to fall out of my pocket. And I'm really getting concerned with that right now. I don't want my phone falling out. I would have a bad day. Stay there, phone. Tick's not a big deal. It goes away when you start driving. It doesn't come back until you stop the bike and you start it again. So it's absolutely no concern to me. It's just a little ticky after getting gas. Third thing that happened was the exhaust decibel valve, or restrictor valve, or whatever you want to call it. This little exhaust valve inside the exhaust. It opens when you're driving, and it closes at like idle and other stuff to kind of keep the sound down. And it gives it a little bit more torque in the back pressure, a little bit more torque in the low RPM. But that stuck, and the only reason that it stuck was I have the GPR Thunder Slash tips on here, and all those do is funnel water in. So whenever I had water get to my bike, it would go down my tips and go hit this valve, and it would cause it to stick. And the solution was to unplug the valve. Its default state is wide open, so unplugging it fixed it. Because I have a race ECU, it doesn't matter. It's actually not supposed to have it there to begin with. So again, a free fix, but that was a problem that came up because of my mods. Other than that, I've had nothing at all, other than those very few things that I'm going to chalk that up to basic owning a motorcycle. As for service, the valve lash is a killer. The valve lash is probably, I guess, if I remember right, it was like a little over $2,000 to have Aprilia do my valve lash. You can't do it yourself because you need special tools that are a few $100s. So I just gave it to Aprilia. I just said, here, do my valve lash. Valve lash you do at $14,000 and about $30,000. So the valve lash being $2,000, it's rough, but as for an Italian bike, that's probably the only thing that's really bad, but it's an Italian bike. Get over it. Next up, we have oil changes. I change my oil every 5,000 or so miles, and it works fine for me. The problem I run into is not the frequency of oil changes. 5,000 miles is a little excessive for some people. I like to do the 3,000, 3 months thing. I do 5,000 or a year, whichever comes first, which generally is 5,000. As for the oil I run Fuchs Silcoline 15W50. The bike calls for 530, but because I ride it hard and hot days, and I tend to ride this hard, I don't ride it that hard when I'm doing a motovlog, but I do ride it hard, and occasionally this type of main road I can't really ride hard on either, but because I ride aggressively, and usually I run 1550, it has better high temperature than 530. It's a little bit thicker. It keeps the timing chain tighter. It keeps the engine well lubricated. The downside that you run into is slightly less fuel economy and slightly less power, but I can deal with that. It's about $16 a quart, $15 to $16 a quart, and it takes 4 quarts. My oil filter, I only run high-end oil filters, racing filters and K&N filters, stuff like that. They generally run about $15 to $20 a filter. So all in all, the oil change ends up being about $80 to $100 per oil change, depending on what I buy. And that is another killer, but that's personal preference. You can buy cheaper oil and be fine. Yeah, I know probably not everyone's going to go for Silcoline, but you can buy whatever you want and put it in here. That's just me. It does call for the Group 5 synthetic. I highly recommend putting the Group 5 synthetic in it. Don't run dyno oil. You'll definitely have hard shifts and other things like that if you're running dyno oil or a semi-synthetic, or a Group 3 synthetic even may not give you the best feeling with your shifter. So definitely run a high-end synthetic in it for sake of keeping it good. Long TLDR, Aprilia is a very reliable, very fast, very exotic motorcycle, and definitely if you're thinking about buying one and you have the money to put down on one, take it for a test drive and buy it. I say buy it, not think about it, buy it, because it is not a it's a fun exotic. It's not unattainable, and you get the sweet V4 sound with it too. So I would totally tell you to buy this thing. Just keep in mind that at 14,000 you're gonna want a valve lash. You might want a valve lash at 600. Some of the Aprilias are known for leaving the factory with slightly loose valves or slightly tight. So that's it. That's the RSV4's RSV4's long term. It is a reliable, fun, exotic motorcycle. It is completely attainable. I would not question buying one again. It is probably one of the best motorcycle I've owned so far. It hands down beats my old Gixxer in every department, including maintenance. This is a very attainable, great motorcycle. Buy it. Just buy it.